With the 199th pick in the Rugby Podcast Draft, the Jacks Rangers show selects Dan Boyer from the University of Merrimack, New Hampshire. Congratulations. Welcome to the team.
This is an amazing moment here. I want to thank everybody who supported me. This is the greatest night of my life. Let freedom ring and huzzah! Welcome, Let Freedom Ring. My guest this week from the Jacks Rangers show, Phil Harris. Phil, how are you?
Pretty good. How you doing, man?
Good, good. Happy to have you on. As I am, apparently I got drafted.
Yeah, you got drafted. Here's some stickers. Here
Thank you.
That's our payment to you.
All right. So I get paid in stickers. I appreciate it. Just get those right there. Those are awesome. I have a bunch of these.
Yes.
If you've seen any of the live streams that I've done, I have in the background. They were just in the background or something else, though.
Yes, the Dorchester Room has it on their fridge. So, yeah, we appreciate those guys. The Dorchester Room is a roommates that are Canadians that play for the Free Jacks, and they get into all kind of hijinks on the internet. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, very cool. Chris Lind, who's also on the podcast.
A.K.A. Bozo.
Bozo. Still think that's funny.
Yes.
He was telling me, hey, you looked them up. Yeah, it's pretty interesting what they got going on. That's kind of an interesting idea.
Yeah, very, very funny guys. They do a lot of meal prep and stuff like that on their channel, and just hilarity ensues. Yeah.
Good for them. Now, how have you been since your last appearance? I think we had you on in January, which before the Free Jack season had started, but how are things going?
Excellent, man. Can't complain. Channel's going really well. We're almost up to 100 subscribers on YouTube, and we're approaching 5,000 total downloads, audio downloads for the show. Yep, so we're really excited about that.
That's really cool. Who have you had for guests recently?
Recently, we had a lady by the name of Wendy Young, and she is a MLR broadcaster. Really knows her stuff, man. One of the best out there. A lot of people complain about the commentators in MLR, but I think she's right up there at the top. Really enjoyed talking to her. And we're gonna have LaRue Milan, star Free Jack at the center position on tonight. As a matter of fact,
nice.
Yeah, should be a good time.
No, that's really cool. You get a lot of different, and it's not, you're doing other stuff that's, like you just said, not just Free Jacks players, not just Free Jacks fans. Yep. I think something that you do that is I think is absolutely phenomenal is you interact with the other, essentially correspondents of the other teams. How did you start doing that?
I don't know where the idea came from, but in the off season this year, we wanted to bring in some different viewpoints, not just Free Jack viewpoints. So we reached out to some friends that we had in the MLR network, if you will, of guys that either do their own podcast or run their own fan groups for the other teams in MLR. So I reached out to them, and a lot of them I'm already friends with to begin with. So I was like, hey, let's get you on, in the off season to talk about your team, and then every time the Free Jacks play your team, we're going to get you on maybe a week before to talk about the matchup. So I think it's really paid dividends. We're still missing a couple correspondents out there that we don't have teams for specifically, correspondents for that team. But yeah, it's been really, really good.
Yeah, it was really cool. And then the Dallas correspondent was actually at the game. And
yes, he was.
If I'm not mistaken, he just got off the plane.
He had just gotten off the plane like an hour before, drove down from Boston Logan to Quincy with his girlfriend. They had a blast. They said that we were very, very hospitable people, very, very nice and friendly, which, in New England, we don't really think of that being the case. But I'm really glad that he enjoyed his experience, and they almost beat us. They came up just 1 point short, Dan.
That was pretty wild, and I was like, this is going to be the only Dallas fan here, and he's going to be the one to say, I got to see them, because they had not won a game in 2 years?
Yes. It's a year and a half, essentially.
Year and a half, okay. So that was pretty exciting. And I have to say, he did say something now. As someone who's not drink anymore, at one point I saw him and he came back with 6 beers, not opened. And he's like, I could never do this in Dallas. I'm like, you really can't do that around here either. I was like, I don't know what happened there.
I'm not sure he finished them all himself. I think he gave them out to some people that were being really nice to him, which is cool.
Yeah, but that was a great game. That was a great game.
Yeah.
That was one of the ones I was pretty nervous about because there was a lot of starters that weren't out there.
Exactly. So everybody that's playing Dallas lately is just rotating their squad because they understand Dallas is a weaker opponent, at least at this point in their history. So we came up almost short. Well, we won, but the Dallas came up short, and it was really came down to they had the option of taking. I think it was a scrum down penalty inside the 22, and if they had gotten that and gotten a penalty from it, they could have just kicked it through the uprights and the game would have been over. But our team came together in the scrum and won a penalty for us, which allowed us to win the game. So.
Yeah, that was pretty unbelievable. It's funny because like Bozo, like I feel like it's funny. I'm at the games.
Yep.
I feel like to remember like how it happened. TV is easier.
For sure, and
unless you're like on top of it.
Listen, I agree 1,000% because there's a lot going on. We're all social people, right? So we're talking to people at the same time. So it's kind of hard to always focus on what's going on the pitch, even though you want to. But you're just trying to, maybe there's a new fan around you and you're trying to explain the game. So you're not 100% taking in everything that you see. But Bozo has the luxury of never going to games, so he's just watching it on TV. So yeah, he sees everything that happens.
Because that 100%, I'm like, his memory is like,
yes.
I'm like, yeah, he knows exactly what happened.
He sure does. That's why we have him on the show, man. He's really good.
I give, and we're gonna talk about Chris a little bit, but I love giving him crap.
Yes.
But he does do a good job about knowing what's going on in the league.
He does a fantastic job, and you're not the only one that likes to give him crap. There's a lot of people that do the picks with him that give him a ton of crap as well. So we have fun with him.
It's too funny.
Yeah.
Now I want to bring this up. The Free Jacks recently set the scoring record or points scored in a game against Toronto. It was 80-5. You guys were live streaming during this. I was interacting with you. You were interacting with all the fans.
Yep.
There is one fan in particular I'm going to want to ask you about, but I kind of know what you were thinking because I was listening to the live stream. But like, what was going on in that game? 80-5. That's unreal.
I think I had predicted that we would win by 10 points because it was at their place and we had lost there last year, and we're not the best. We've done a lot better in the most recent years, but we're not a great away team. Well, who really is, right? I mean, you want to be at home in your own friendly confines. But going up there, I feel like we would win, but I thought it was going to be a close game. So to watch what we witnessed on TV, and we did, like I said, we did that watch along, so it's out there in the world forever now. And Bozo and I we're just dumbfounded with the dominance of the Free Jacks. We knew that this team was really, really good, but we kind of play down to our opponents. The Dallas game comes up and like us beating Chicago, but only really taking command of that game in the last 20 minutes. It's one of those things where we thought, well, they'll probably play down to them a little bit and we'll probably just scrape by with a 10-point win. But to see them firing on all cylinders like that away from home was a real shocker. But it was a great, pleasant surprise,
I couldn't believe it. Now, I'm not a big video games guy because I'm not. But I know what easy mode is. And that's what I was like. It looks like my brothers when they're playing it and they just want to just dominate the other team. I mean, literally, like nothing. They weren't. I was like, how is this happening?
What's also interesting is like the ball would bounce and it would go to us. It was just one of those days where everything was going correctly for the Free Jacks and nothing was going right for Toronto. It's almost like the ball was glued to our hands. We couldn't get rid of it if we wanted to. It's just one of those games, man. Like, Toronto will probably just look at that and say, there's not much that we can take away from this other than maybe getting our defense correct because it was just the Free Jacks' day. And that's just sometimes how it goes in rugby, man.
Yeah, and you guys did bring in the Toronto correspondent, I believe. And I was just, honestly, I get what he was saying, and I commented on it, and I was kidding. And just a little troll, a little ribbing, but he was bringing up the refs, and I'm like, I'm not saying he was wrong, but wrong time to do it.
Yeah, I mean, God bless him, James, who's a great, great fan of the league and his Toronto Arrows. He's not our correspondent, but he's one of the guys that runs MLR Stats.
Oh, okay.
Is his thing. So, yeah, I mean, what else are you going to say as a Toronto fan other than we're just getting our butt kicked? Like, there was a couple calls at the referee. It probably was maybe 60-40 to the Free Jacks' favor. And, of course, they're going to hold on to that, basically. Otherwise, they're just going to lose their minds and cry. You know what I mean? Because at that point, it was 54-0, and the game was over with. There was no way that they were going to come back into the game. So he kind of focused on that a little bit, but it is what
I guess there was nothing else to really...
Yeah, there's nothing to talk about in terms of his analysis of the game from a Toronto perspective because Toronto wasn't doing anything on the pitch worthy of talking about.
No, and you got to... you think that that's going to lead to... I mean, I don't know. Like, someone had to be held accountable in Toronto for that. I don't know who.
What's interesting is our correspondent who's on another show, a fantastic MLR pundit by the name of Brian Ray. He runs America's Rugby News, fantastic source for MLR content. He does another show called Rugby Wrap Up, which is huge. And he's on there every single week. And he was like, well, the coaches might get fired for this, essentially was what took place. And I don't think that has happened yet. But if they continue to stink up the league that way, he's got to be out of there, because that is a market that is pretty strong. The problem is they don't have their beginning schedule is they have no home games. They're very, very bottom heavy in terms of home games because it's so cold up there. So they're on the road for like 6 weeks to begin the season, which is tough for anybody. So when they get home, they really need to be winning those home games. And that's the whole, the Fort Toronto thing came into play, where he was trying to give his fans a little bit of hope, like, oh, we're really good at home, prior to them getting beat by New York, where their winger came out and scored a hat trick, 3 tries, and they still didn't win the game. And then they got blown out by us. So it's not looking great there in Toronto right now.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to Cam Davidowitz, Plymouth State alumni.
That's right.
Who had the record-breaking try.
Yeah.
Which was pretty cool that it was him.
It is. He's the future mayor of Haverhill. The guy's a stud. He's from around this area. Like you said, you're an alumni with him, alumnus. And he's really, really improved every single year. I think he's up to like 5 tries right now this season, where last season he only had 1. So he's doing really, really well.
I got to say, and I said this on, I don't know if it was on my show or somewhere else, but the 80-5, we got a growing league.
Yes.
And as someone, I want to see the MLR continue to grow. And as a Free Jacks fan, I loved it.
Yes.
As a fan of the league, I hated it.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think that's going to be something that's kind of like forgotten about, or did it feel damaging to the league?
Maybe a little bit in terms of reputation worldwide, but you know, I think that is a historic performance that we may never see again, that type of dominance, because we have a draft, we have a salary cap. Butt kickings like that is not supposed to happen. So I would be surprised if we see a higher score like that anytime soon. I think that market will be fine. There was a ton of fans in the audience, and they came back the very next week as well.
They did?
Yeah, they did.
Okay, so they're having a good time, because I'm not a big Twitter guy.
Yep.
But I'll go on every so often, and there was a lot of criticism, right?
Yep.
Because, you know, right now the XFL is getting a lot of criticism because, you know, the money-making team in the league was the Battlehawks, and they didn't even make the playoffs, and a lot of people didn't think it was fair that they didn't make it with their structure. So, you know, I just kind of look at it, these newer leagues, you just got to be like, you just want. I guess I don't care what Twitter says, but you hear the rumblings, and you know.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a fan of the Toronto Arrows, I can understand why you would be upset with that performance and upset with your team. But you know, it's just one of those things, man. Like, again, it wasn't. They obviously didn't help themselves, but it really was just it was the Free Jacks day, you know. And you got to just kind of flush it and move on.
If the Cleveland Browns fans can stay around in their area, then the Arrows will be.
I mean, they're the only team in Canada. That's one of the things that they have going for them right now. So if you're a guy that lives in Vancouver, there's no such MLR team there, even though it's a big city and they probably deserve a franchise. So if you're a Canadian rugby fan and you're a fan of the MLR, you're probably supporting the Arrows, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because they have a rivalry. That town and Seattle have a rivalry in other sports. So you can't pick Seattle as your team. So you're naturally going to go to Toronto. So Toronto has the benefit and the luxury of being Canada's team right now. You know?
Yeah, no, and I love it. I'd love to see. I mean, I'd love to see a team in Montreal.
That'd be great.
Honestly,
for real.
Now I want to get into this. When I wrote the show, it wasn't formally announced.
Okay.
It was announced by the Jacks Rangers show.
About
Beaudein Waaka is returning to the Free Jacks.
Yeah.
Officially announced. Before I get into the announcement, do you think there was any reason that because it's been public knowledge for about a week?
Yeah, it's been public knowledge for a week. We didn't break the story, but we kind of collaborated with the guy that broke it, and as soon as he put it out there, within a couple of hours, you know, we had already made the graphic. We knew it was going to happen, so we had heard whispers from within the organization, people close to the organization, that this is going to happen. So we wanted to make sure that we had the graphic already. So after he posted it, you know, basically like the next morning, we posted ours. And basically gave him credit for it. But yeah, it's something that's been in the works for quite a while, and it has been whispered about for a long, long time. So I'm happy to see that it did take place, and we got a good one back again.
I'm starting to wonder if they waited the announcement, because I had no idea that the contract was gonna be through 2025.
Right. Yeah. I don't know specifically why they chose to wait. We have the luxury of we have a loose affiliation with the organization, but since somebody else broke the news, we were able to really run with it and just kind of take off with it. Whereas the club moves a bit slower with that sort of thing. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I did, it was pretty cool, because I had made a video. I think you shared it to Beaudein, and then it was in his stories. The one about Spider had done one.
Yep.
You can tell that he wants to come back here.
Yeah, he loves the fans. He loves to be loved. I think is a great way to describe Beaudein Waaka, and I don't think he was getting the love that he is accustomed to there in Japan, because over there he's just a guy. He's coming off the bench every once in a while. I think he started or played in about 4 games, had 1 try. So, decent numbers, I guess, but ultimately over here, he's the league MVP last year, played in practically every single game, I think 15 out of 16, scored a boatload of tries, and just was absolutely, clearly heads and shoulders above everybody else in the entire league based on his performance last year. So people really fell in love with this guy, Beaudein Waaka, last year as the fly half of the Free Jacks. He's still a lot of people's favorite Free Jack, so for him to come back, it's a huge deal. The fans were over the moon at this announcement. Yeah.
No, they absolutely were. And you can see it in the comments now that's on the social media pages of the Free Jacks. How do you think he's going to help? Now, we have a fly half now who's doing great.
Great job. Yeah, he's second in the league in total points scored. So.
Yeah, I've seen some of the MVP picks you guys have made, and I feel it's him.
Yeah, for sure.
In my opinion, on the team.
Yep.
It doesn't sound like Waaka's looking to come back and take that position.
It could work out that way, because I guess the rugby is a war of attrition, right? Guys get injured. It's a physical game. Guys get injured all the time. So he could slot in practically anywhere in the back line. So other than scrum half, that's probably not his position to play. But he could probably play a little bit of 12. He could play wing on either side, and he could play fullback. We know that he has played fullback with the Free Jacks prior to his MVP performance last year, so he could slot right in there. That's a position where Mitch Wilson was previously playing that position, a position that he's played very, very well with USA Eagles as an international, but he's been moved over to wing. So I think Waaka could slot right into that 15 position, and you got attacking options from there.
How do you see these guys playing together?
I think it's going to work out just fine. I'm eternally optimistic about this situation. This is a team that is 7-2 right now, so I'm not worried about the situation. So I think he could be a perfect 15 in this setup. So, and then again, if you want to move, because Jason Patras, who you're talking about, who's the current fly half of the team, who replaced Waaka, he's also a natural 15 as well. He's played that position before. He can go right back into 15 if we wanted to move Waaka back into the 10 jersey at fly half. So those 2 guys can play both of those positions extremely well. That's why I'm so confident. If you tell Waaka one week, here's the 10 jersey, give Jason the 15, or vice versa, it's all going to work out well, because they have experience doing both of those positions.
We haven't skipped a beat. I mean, I know you had me on to help interview Jason when he first signed with the team, and he had big shoes to fill.
Yes.
I remember just thinking, I was like, man, we just had this phenomenal player. I don't know who Jason Patras is,
right?
And he's filled in. I don't see too much of a difference in the record this year than it was last year so far.
Yeah, we're doing great.
He's filled right in.
Again, he's the second. He's in second place overall in the entire league for most points scored. So he's doing a fantastic job, and that's in addition to him being injured 1 week. So he wasn't available for 1 week entirely. He wasn't on the bench. He was just not available. So he's came in. Regardless, everybody talks about pressure and stuff like that. He's kind of brushed that off in interviews. I mean, I'm sure it's something that's in the back of his mind, right? But he's came in and really performed very, very well. He's a guy that comes from basically the minor league, if you will, in New Zealand. Not Super Rugby, but the level directly below there. He's just a career rugby guy. I think he's played for one club pretty much his entire rugby playing career. and has just lit it up there. As soon as I saw his resume, I was like, he's going to do just fine. And he's really exceeded my expectations. I think at the beginning of the season, I gave that position grade, him and Reese McDonald, a solid B. It was the lowest grade that I gave anybody or positions on the entire roster, just because they hadn't done it here yet. I wanted to see it. And boy, has he really exceeded my expectations for sure.
Yeah, like I said, he would be my pick for the team MVP. Like,
yeah.
And when they were slaughtering Toronto, I don't know, because I think I said on there, I was like, why is he in the game still?
Right. Yep.
You know, two great players. It's going to be very interesting. Very happy about Beaudein coming back. If we make the finals,
yes,
which is what we all want, we want the Shield. It's going to be a tough game. And that's if we got to get out of the East. But the way the East is going right now, the Free Jacks look above and beyond everybody else. We're going to see that game against New York this weekend.
Yes.
Maybe you feel a little bit different. You don't feel we're above and beyond?
I do think so.
Okay.
What I was going to say is that what's interesting is that every single team other than the Free Jacks in the Eastern Conference have a losing record right now.
Yeah.
They're all 4-5. Which, you know, somebody's going to go on a run and somebody's going to secure that second and third spot. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. It's a little bit fuzzy as to who that would be. It's not a traditional situation where New England's up there. Obviously, they're far and above the best team. But normally it would be New York would be in people's minds, and then maybe Atlanta or NOLA, which is New Orleans. That's what I picked in the offseason as who I would expect to go to the playoffs. But New York is not very good right now. They don't look great. They've got injury issues left and right, and I think a lot of their leadership basically retired at the end of last season when they won the championship. Andy Ellis comes to mind, World Cup winning scrum half, no longer with the team.
Was he the MVP of the finals? Who was that?
I think he was, yeah. That's exactly right. So his leadership is lacking for sure on that squad because he's no longer there. So, yeah, it's a weird position to be in because we expect them to be very, very good, annoyingly good, as I like to call them, but they really hadn't shown that too much.
Well, then, so you got to ask this. Now, again, anything can happen anytime. I'm not even going to say, like, we're definitely winning the East, but let's say you get to the finals.
Yeah.
We have not won a game against have we won a game against? No, our two losses are West teams. We lost San Diego.
And Utah.
And Utah. The Utah game was a fun game to watch.
Very close.
San Diego was not so fun to watch.
Nope.
Is Beaudein going to be what could get us over the hump if we can get to that final?
I mean, I don't just think that. I'm sure that the staff that brought him back, the general manager and the coaching staff, believe that he is that missing piece. Otherwise, they could have just picked him up in the offseason potentially because he was not going to have his contract renewed in Japan, or at least for that specific team. And if another team was going to offer him a contract, they would have paid him more than we could offer. So that's one way to look at it for sure. I think he is coming back to make sure and settle us down for a playoff run because he has exceptional talent for this league, and he could be a difference maker.
I can't wait. I don't think he'll be there this weekend, I have to assume.
I doubt it, yeah.
I can't wait. It's going to be great. Now, I want to get into a segment here. We've done this with some other things, never with rugby. Free Jacks name game.
Okay.
I'm going to say one of the Free Jacks players, and you say what the first word that comes to mind and why.
Okay.
If I mess up any of the names, it's because I'm used to reading them more than hearing them.
I mess them up all the time. Don't worry, man.
Yeah, it took me forever to say Cam Davidowitz.
Yes.
Because I was watching old episodes. Now I have no problem saying it.
Yeah.
Paula Belancana.
The first thing that comes to mind is Beetlejuice, and I don't know why he has that nickname amongst the team, but I have to find out. I'm going to ask LaRue Milan that question this weekend. I'm a huge Beetlejuice guy. It's like in my top 5 of movies. For him to have that nickname just makes me laugh every single time I hear it, man. But he's a fantastic player.
He's becoming one of my favorite. I like the Wings. We know
that.
Sure. He's becoming one of my favorite players.
He's second in the league right now with total tries scored with 8 right now. He's having a tremendous year.
Yeah, he's a good player, definitely. Yeah. Kyle Sinquera.
Eagle is my first thought because that is his nickname. He's got this amazing mullet. You can't miss him out there on the pitch. He's a prop, so he's a big, wide guy. He's got this like handlebar mustache. He's America rolled into one person.
Well, he's a lot on MLR uses him a lot as like what do they call him? Like the stud of rugby.
Yes, he's like the poster boy of MLR, which is hilarious.
He when you see him, it's what do you think of an American rugby player? Like
no doubt.
Like the honest to God truth.
Yeah,
you know,
it's going to be weird if he ever goes to another team. Him not wearing red, white, and blue is just going to look very, very strange. Yeah. Hope that never happens.
No. I mean, they have T-shirts of him, right?
Yeah.
And,
Oh yeah, I've got one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't. I that must have been before I was going to games, but maybe I get one online.
Yeah, you can for sure.
Cam Davidowitz.
Mayor. He is the hometown hero of Haverhill, Massachusetts. I think we joked around when we had him on the show. It's another great interview that we did recently with Cam. Is I was like, you could probably win the mayor's race right now. We used to always say this about Ric Flair, because I'm from North Carolina originally. Like, he could run for governor and like win easily. People wouldn't have to know his politics. You know, this is like back in the day when he was in his prime. He would just win automatically by default.
Oh, absolutely. I love him there.
Yeah.
Spencer Jones.
Bones immediately is my first thought. So Fozzie Foster DeWitt, one of the players on the team, mentioned to us, because we were just calling him Spencer Jones in our everything that we broke down, because we didn't know he had a nickname. So he threw that name out there as a possibility, and I've just ran with it ever since. It just rolls off the tongue. Bones Jones, love it.
Bones Jones, I love that. Here's one that this is a tough one right now, because I was really sad to hear this, but he's out for the season.
Yes.
Josh Larson.
Leader. Captain of the team when he is available, just an amazing professional. He's been on the show many, many times, and I give him crap because he went down and coached Clemsucks. Unbeknownst to him, he didn't realize that I played at Carolina, so I always give him crap every time I see him. But he is just, a leadership personified. The guy, you would want to be beside of him, or him leading you into battle. He's that type of character. Yeah.
Now, okay, because, I can't always see the bench. Is he at the game still, or is he just, so
he's definitely there, yep. So normally he lives, I want to say, I think he spends full time now in Boston. His girlfriend is also with him his wife now is with him in Boston. But he's a guy that was born in Canada and raised in New Zealand, but I think he spends most of his time now in Boston year-round. Yep.
Now, would you know, he's out for the year, do you know what his contract looks like?
I think he is, I want to say off the top of my head, he's here for at least another year.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. I believe he's contracted through 24.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So maybe see him out there again.
Yes, for sure.
My favorite player, and this was cool, I got to get a picture with Mitch Wilson.
Yes.
Mitch.
Iron Man. He plays like he's my height, and my weight, but he's more like your size essentially. Like he's a pretty small guy. When you see him, you're not assuming like immediately rugby player doesn't come to mind, but he plays like he's 7 feet tall, man. He is absolutely fearless. We love to call him Iron Man. I think Diamond Dave from the show came up with that, but he plays like he's wearing an iron suit. He just goes in for those tackles. He's just fearless, man.
I love watching him. I mean, that play they had this weekend where Patras kicked it.
Yeah.
And Mitch is just like, it's like he was catching a fly ball.
Yeah.
I actually got a video of this, which was really cool. What sucked about the video is I missed the kick.
Oh, no.
So I had the balls in the air, and he's just waiting, boom. Guy comes, I forget who he passed it to.
It was Spencer Jones.
Spencer Jones, and boom. And I was like, that was it
looked like easy mode, like you were playing a rugby game on easy mode for sure.
It was beautiful.
What you didn't pick up on in your video was I was screaming wide to Jason, because for about 20 seconds Mitch was out there by himself, just like, hey, I'm over here. You can throw it or kick it to me or whatever. It was an overlap situation, a classic overlap. Mitch was by himself. What happens in a ruck is like the defense will focus on what happens at the breakdown, so they'll kind of draw in a couple more bodies. You can basically throw a blanket over their entire defense, which leaves opportunities out wide. And Mitch was all by himself, so I was screaming, wide. He eventually kicked it, and everything else happened.
And the kick's got to be perfect.
Jason Patras, he's perfect, man. He's really, really good.
That was that, and I was so, like, for so many games I've gone to, I've been waiting to get, like, in a place where I'm getting a try on a video.
Yeah.
And I think I got 2 that day, and I was like, all right,
yeah,
it was just good. It was a good day.
For sure.
Mitch saw some guy he wasn't dressed for. Was he hurt, or he just had some? Yeah.
He had during the Utah game he got knocked out cold, so he was not in the game after that and the following game. So he was out for 2 weeks. Yeah.
But yeah, I get to see. I went up, and I now have a picture with him and Jason Patras, but it was cool. Like, nope, but. It's funny. I don't know. There wasn't a lot of people trying to get pictures with Mitch, and I was like, all right, nobody's over here. I was like, hey, can I get a picture? Yeah, absolutely. I'm like, you're my favorite player.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, really?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Was this on the pitch during one of the concerts? Is that
This
what you're
was
talking
right
about?
before Orleans played.
Okay. So what's interesting about, and this might be a good thing to pitch right here, is like during the Free Jacks games, there's always a festival that takes place. There's always a theme, and there's always like something that happens after the game nowadays. And what's been happening lately is they've had these like big national acts, bands, playing after the game on the field. And the players hang around, and you can get autographs with them, you can take pictures with them, you can talk to them, which is completely different than most professional sports in this country, because there's this huge gap between the fans and the players, and the access is pretty much non-existent unless you happen to run across them, like maybe going to the game or just seeing them in your city, like getting groceries or something like that. It would never take place at, in like a Patriots game where, like after the game, everybody's on the pitch and then all of the fans are there too. Like it doesn't. It's one of those unique things that we're experiencing right now because it's the beginning of the league, and rugby is one of those things. It's like a very humble sport. They don't get paid a ton of money, so there's not a lot of huge egos. So it's pretty cool.
No, I think it's absolutely awesome that you could do that because, if you do have, obviously I'm not a young kid, but like if I were to bring my nephew and he got into it, that'd probably, if someone would bring their son, that's really, and they could take a picture with these players, like that's really, really cool. And that's something that I hope the rest of the league is doing.
Yeah.
I have to give it to the Free Jacks with this concert series because I've been blown away. I've talked about on the show. I didn't know who Orleans. I knew who Orleans was, but I didn't know Orleans.
You knew the hits, but you didn't know who they. Yeah.
Until they started playing, and it was like, okay, so they're paying some good money to get some of these bands.
Yeah, they have a festival that takes place in the summertime after rugby ends at that venue at Fort Quincy, as we call it, Veterans Memorial Stadium in Quincy, and it brings in national acts now. So they have these connections that they've built up with all these touring managers or booking agents, whoever they are, so they can draw in big names during the season.
No, it's really cool, and the English Beat was there this weekend,
Yes.
and Tenderness is a song that I have always loved, and when it comes on, I'm like, I had to crank it, and never really even thought about who sang it. And then they started playing that, I went,
wow, yeah.
And I recorded the whole thing. I was like, this is unbelievable. And then I'm like, now I recognize the singer.
Yes.
And I recognize that voice, and was like, oh my gosh. And then they played their other big hit there, Save It for Later. That place was bumping.
Yeah.
Like nobody was leaving.
Yeah, the Free Jacks got some really good video of people jumping up and down, like towards the start of the stage there. It's a good time, man. Like I recommend anybody, like even if you're not familiar with rugby or you've never seen the game before, come out just for the vibes. It is a blast.
Yeah, I mean honestly, like everybody I've brought always has a really good time.
It's good.
If it's tough. Like even I played rugby. I watch rugby every week. I still sometimes get confused on things.
Sure, yeah.
So I think sometimes people have a hard time because they're confused.
Yeah.
But once you start to learn, like I just try to tell people this is the basic things that you need to know what's going on. Don't worry about every penalty.
Right.
Because if you try to figure out every penalty, you're going to get lost.
Yeah, your eyes will get crossed because there are a lot of laws out there, and some of them are pretty obscure. But yeah, I mean, people really, I think what they appreciate is the physicality and the competitiveness. Like that is instant. People can understand because like a big tackle, a big hit, like people are like, oh, look at this,
Yeah.
So that's what that's what you should be focusing on. Worry about the laws later on. Come to a couple more games, you'll eventually pick it up.
Absolutely. One more I want to ask Jason Patras.
Potty or bald maybe, because Bozo's always talking. Bozo's got a bald head. He's always talking about Patras's long, luscious hair that doesn't exist. Yeah, he's very, very easy to pick out because I think he might be the only bald guy that we have on our team.
No one's coming to mind that I can think of.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so yeah, very unique in that aspect. Yeah, but a great player.
Absolutely. Very excited to see what happens with him and Waaka on the same page. We do have a fan question from Bozo.
Oh my gosh.
He's been very bitter about this.
I noticed, yeah.
Like, very hostile.
Yeah, let's tell the people what the question is.
So true or false, Dan's joke about Chicago is played out, stale, and overdone. Now, I just want to address this. When I post it, it gets about 5 or 6 people hitting the laugh button.
People love to crap on Bozo. I don't know what it is, but people really appreciate it. And I think that is false. I think you should do it more than you're doing it now.
We're gonna crank it up.
Crank it up.
It's funny because there was one day where I was like, I think I messaged you. I was like, Bozo shook or Bozo's, like or he's triggered. Or
Yeah, triggered, something like that. Yeah.
It's what's funny though? It's payback. For years, Chris has taken these absurd takes about the Patriots and posted them. When the Patriots are still winning and everything. And anytime I'd post about the Patriots, here comes Chris.
Of course. Yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2. Yep, there it is. Here's the comment. What do you
He's
say,
a big troll online, man. Yeah. That's one of the things that like you'll immediately notice if you happen to follow the show. Like he's always hitting people up and joking with them online and stuff like that. So yeah, it's weird. He's a guy that we've talked about this on other shows. He's a guy that's born and raised in New Hampshire, but is not a Patriots fan. Very strange.
Yeah, he said it on the show. And he's. But I also think, and we'll allow Chris to rebuttal this.
Sure.
He can say in the comments.
Yeah.
I think he's a little jelly.
Big time.
That he decided not to like the Patriots.
To get on the bandwagon, yeah. Yep.
Because over the years, all these comments. And because some of the times back when the Patriots were still playing really great football, some of his takes would be like, dude, are we watching the same thing here?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it might just be, it's either like jealousy or just he's very defensive about it because, again, a guy born and raised in this area, but yet he's a Giants fan, but he's not from there. So I'm sure he's gotten a lot of crap over the years for just being like, I'm sure people called him a traitor or a turncoat, Benjamin Arnold, whatever else, yeah.
I do love the story though that he's, it was a little Giants thing. That's why I post the Rick Moranis
stuff. Yes, it's very cute, a very cute story.
But it's all in good fun. Now, is Chicago really the giant disappointment? Because and I do troll Chris, but everybody was kind of like, this is going to be a team, and they just have not played to that level. Everybody
was fooled by Chicago, except for one of our guys on the show, an outrider by the name of David Lawrence. He does the Scrum of the Earth podcast. Great guy. He basically, like in the line, we go through our takes, and he's the last one to provide a take, so he always has to zag, make it a little bit different. So I think he predicted them to finish 5th in the West, which is looking like gold right now. But everybody else, I had them 3rd in the West. I think Diamond Dave had them 2nd, and Bozo was the biggest loser in terms of. He said that they would be the 1st in the West. So I think everybody saw the players that they got from L.A. and Austin, 2 teams that no longer exist. They had a dispersal draft, and Chicago picked up a lot of those star players. And everybody's like, well, they've got this guy, this guy, and this guy. How can they not be really, really good? And I think what people forgot to consider is it's an expansion club, and a lot of these guys, even though they were really good on their individual teams, they had never played together. And eventually it will come together. Their, let's say, 11 through 15 players' jerseys numbers are really, really good. So eventually it will click, and they will become a force in this league. It's just everybody's kind of dumbfounded as to how bad they've been.
Yeah, not everybody. What was the NHL team that went to the finals? The Las Vegas team?
Yeah, Golden Knights.
Yeah, the Golden, like that. That was I couldn't be. And I'm not a big hockey guy. You don't hear a lot about the Bruins on this show. Not that I'm anti-Bruins.
Right.
I like the Bruins. I'm just not a hockey guy.
Sure.
And I'm not going to try to I faked it before.
Right? Yeah.
But I can't get into it like I get to.
I'm not an NFL guy anymore. Like I used to be. I used to watch all the Patriots games and stuff like that. But the past, since really MLR and the Free Jacks came along, I don't really watch it anymore, Dan. It's just one of those things.
See, the thing is, this is perfect for me.
Yeah.
Because I love the NFL.
Okay.
I absolutely love the NFL.
Sure.
I haven't really watched the XFL much because I'm either at the Free Jacks on the weekends,
right,
or I had a race and all this other stuff. But I tried to follow it the best I could. I really didn't get to this year, but the Free Jacks is perfect for me because football. They're not going.
It doesn't. It's not a competing thing.
No,
yeah, sure.
And it's great, and it also was that the Free Jacks have become that sport that I have after football that I really needed.
That is a prime example of how this thing can be successful, is because people are missing, obviously there's the USFL or whatever it's called, and then XFL, but people understand that this is not the NFL. So there's an opportunity for MLR to play in the schedule that they are to really attract the people that are missing the NFL. At one time, way, way back in the day, before the MLR existed and even before pro rugby, there was this startup that wanted to get started. to play professional rugby in the United States. And one of their things were, we're going to get on the NFL Network and have all of our games there. I thought that was an interesting concept. It never came to fruition or anything like that, but that is something that I wonder if MLR would consider, just to have their games on there, because it could attract an audience that don't know most of the people in this country don't know what rugby is. Even though the MLR's existed for 6 years and all this other stuff, they have maybe a slight concept of it, but they've never seen a game before. Most people think like, oh, it's like football without pads. Yeah, kinda, but if they watch it, they would love it. They would love it.
I agree, and I think it falls really perfect on the calendar.
Yep.
Right, and listen, the Super Bowl happens, and the XFL is kind of struggling, but they are obviously starting with a much bigger budget than the MLR right off the bat. But I think the MLR can continue to grow. I think if you like football, you would enjoy, or you'd enjoy rugby.
Yeah, if you like football, you'll love rugby. That's a great slogan that the Austin team had before they folded, and I think it's absolutely the case. Yep.
I think it's one of those things like because again, if you come into it, you know nothing about it. I'll be quite frank. Before I started playing, I had buddies, because I didn't go to college right away. I had buddies playing for Keaton State, and I went to watch them, and I was like, what the hell am I watching? I just don't get it.
Yes.
So even when I started playing rugby, I was a little bit timid to start, not over the hits. I just didn't want to go out there and have no clue what I was doing.
Right. Yeah.
And when I found out, my buddy was just like, "No, give it a try, and you will learn." And he was right. Then all of a sudden, it was like, not only is it a fun sport to play, it's fun to watch.
Yes.
It is
1,000%.
I think it's really. I think the entertainment value is there.
That's the big challenge, is how do we get people to sit down and watch it at a game? And I think the Free Jacks have a solution at that, where they're like, here's a beer festival, here's concerts afterwards, so come on in. You may not understand it immediately, but watch this, and then we'll have fun before and then after. But also, like, in terms of perspective, like, if we can just get people to watch the game at home as well, I think people would just really, really enjoy it.
No, I do, and I think and things that fans can do out there is just promote it.
Yes.
If you want it to grow. If you like where it's at, that's fine. But anything that I've ever found is word of mouth spreads things all the time.
I found it my junior year of high school, and I've been talking about it ever since. Like, people can't shut me up about rugby because I'm always talking about it. I'm a rugby evangelist. Anytime there's an opportunity to talk about it, I will take that opportunity, no doubt. So, yeah, it's just really cool that it exists, because, back in the day, it was like we were in the wilderness. Like, we had to watch overseas, and you can't really follow it as well. You can't get as hyped about it and stuff like that. But now we have a league here of our own. And I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure it's successful, other than like buying out the entire place and giving away tickets or anything like that. So I'm just happy to have the podcast and share my passion of rugby, man.
Absolutely. And when I was in college and people had said, like, I wish there was and I wish I got on the train right away. But the thing was, I honestly I didn't know where to find it at the time. Like, I'd heard the MLR was coming. I knew it was out there, but it wasn't on TV yet.
Right.
And like I said it on your show, when Cam Davidowitz, who I've never met Cam, but the fact that he went to Plymouth State and it was all over our alumni page, I was like, that would be awesome to be watching.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, it's on NBC Boston or whatever?
It was on Nesson the first 2 seasons, I think, and now it's on NBC Boston. Yeah.
And then I was like, so I went all in. I was like, this is, and honestly, I love going to Fort Quincy. I love being there. I love following this team.
My girlfriend's uncle, who I just recently saw at Chunky's, we were doing a Harry Potter trivia night there, and he was like, I saw the Free Jacks. I was like, huh? It's like, yeah, I watched the game. He's a big hockey guy, but he saw that it was on. He knew that I loved the Free Jacks, and of course my girlfriend goes as well. She loves the team. He turned it on and he loved it.
Yeah.
So that's all it takes, man. It's great that it's on local broadcasting, like we said, NBC Sports Boston. Every single home game, unless they're on FS1 or FS2, obviously it'll be on there. But every other game, it's on NBC Sports Boston. Most people get that channel around this area. So, yeah, it's great that it's available. Some people are just going to click on it and say, what the heck is this? And then fall in love with it. It's brilliant.
And the MLR network, the Rugby Network is free right now.
Yes.
I don't know if it'll always be that way, but I think you told me about that. I was like, oh, and you're like, yeah, it's free. I go, Okay.
Yeah, easy, right?
And
you just sign up, and that's it. So it's got excellent content on there. Hopefully one day my show will be on that. That'd be great. But right now, if you just go to your smartphone or even on your TV, look for the app, The Rugby Network. It's a green logo. You can download it for free. You sign up for free, no charge, and it gives you highlights, full game replays, and all of the other content that they do. It's pretty cool.
There's some games they won't play live if it's not in your area.
Right, yes, that's one of the downfalls, but then you can just watch it on the NBC Sports Boston.
Because I learned the hard way. When I was in treatment, I wanted to watch a few games that were not free. I just wanted to. I didn't really have much to watch.
For sure, yeah.
And I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I guess they only played the replays. So, real quick, because I want to get into some other stuff, but I want to ask this real quick. You got to pick somebody who wins the West.
San Diego, I've been saying it all year that it will probably be the San Diego Legion against us in the finals. Unfortunately, it's going to be in Chicago instead of Fort Quincy. That's kind of a bummer. But I think that they beat the crap out of us. It was week 2. We had to fly all the way out there. I mean, there's a lot of circumstances that we can talk about all the excuses, but it was brutal to watch. They're a very good team. My only question with them is they're the oldest team in the league. They're 29 years old on average. So are they going to have to rest some guys? Are they rotating guys for the playoffs? We'll have to wait and see on that.
Real quick. I think you've already said this on your show, or at least even posted it. Prediction for New York, New England this weekend.
I've got us by 20. This is a home game for the Free Jacks. We've only ever lost to this team at home in our entire history at Fort Quincy at Veterans Memorial Stadium. It's payback time, man. Let the revenge flow through you is my hot take on that. Like the guys that were there that got their hearts broken from the team last year for the Free Jacks, I hope they play like their hair's on fire, man. Like I want us to stomp them in the ground.
I want that too, but you know what? It just makes me so goddamn nervous that when you win a lot of games and then like they did last year, and then you get to that Eastern Conference. And I know Bozo has his theories on it that I think are right. They picked up some guys, but you get nerve-wracking because Atlanta or New York, they're probably going to be there towards the end, and you're going to have to beat them again.
Listen, I'm always optimistic until it's close to the game where I think we're going to lose every game. That's just how I am, man. Like I'll walk around like Free Jacks, man, we're awesome. I'll talk crap online, but when push comes to shove, I get a little nervous. I always do, yeah. Yeah,
I mean that whole. I didn't want to get into the Eastern Conference Finals. Right
the referee definitely had his part to play, as we've talked about on this show.
It's going to be different this year.
It's going to be different this year. We're going all the way.
Favorite 3 wins of the season so far?
My third place would definitely be us beating New York at their new venue down there in New York. First time that we played them since we lost to them in the Eastern Conference Finals, so that is definitely on there. I will say the next one would be the Toronto victory, which for most people it's going to be number 1, right? Because we absolutely dominated them. But I think this past game where we didn't look good against Atlanta in the first half, got a red card. We were down a player for 20 minutes. Jesse Peretti gets a red card. He's typical, right, for him, unfortunately. But in the second half, we came out and started winning, doing everything that we needed to do, like winning rucks, winning scrums, winning lineouts, and just clawed our way back into that game. Scored 23 unanswered points, and after that game, I was like, this is a statement win. We didn't play our best in the first half, but we came back and still won that game. That's a championship winning style performance right there. That's a championship squad that, for 40 minutes doesn't look good at all. And I was like this the entire time. I was super frustrated watching them because we know how good they can be. But for them to turn around in the second half and win that game, 23 unanswered points is pretty awesome in rugby, man. Like that you really have to be trying hard to do that, and they absolutely look fantastic in that win. So I felt like that is the best win that we've seen so far because they had so much adversity in the first half.
My only thing was if that try didn't get taken back, that was the momentum. I said, okay, they're cooked.
Right. And what's interesting is I don't want to say that the fans at Fort Quincy influenced the referee, but we were definitely letting him know that he needed to check that penalty. Basically, what happened was you can compete in the air a little bit, but if you're not jumping at the same time as the guy that's catching the ball, it could be a penalty, and that's exactly what took place. So basically what it looked like is their Atlanta's player knocked our guy off of the ball and was able to scoop it up and score in a contest in the air, and it was an unfair advantage on their part. So as soon as the try happened, we were all over.
Everybody in the state was like, you got to catch that.
Yeah.
But the replay, I was like, that's not a tough ball to catch.
But thankfully, it came back with a TMO, agreed with us, because we were yelling in the stands like, that is TMO. We were doing the motion. TMO is what we were chanting. So thankfully that one came back. You're right. It could have been a situation where maybe they run away with it if they had scored that try. It would have stopped our comeback.
That not gonna lie, the wind was taken out of my sails at that point.
Yep. Same.
And pretty much everybody and I just went, how did he? Once I saw the replay, I could tell you exactly why he didn't catch that ball.
Right.
It was probably why they got the penalty. But in that moment, like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Any top? Just a little short in time, but like any top fans. I know Spider's one.
Spider's up there for sure. The camera loves Spider because he's always wearing the outfit. Yeah, he's on network. He's on the network. So Spider's in there. I will say Buzz, who is a Mystic rugby guy. His son went to Carolina with me, played rugby there. He always goes to all of the games. It doesn't matter if it's home or away. Fantastic rugby fan. Kenny Thompson and his wife Barbara, they go all over the country supporting the Free Jacks as the away fans. He's on that list. I'll say Diamond Dave with the huzzah sign has become iconic, right? So he's on that list for sure. Yeah, I'm going to throw in yourself. Yeah, you come to the games. You're always representing the Free Jacks. I see you always wearing Free Jacks merchandise on this show, so I appreciate it, man.
I love my Free Jacks gear. I love it.
Yeah. Whoa, sorry.
All right, I want to get into one of my favorite segments of the show, buy or sell.
Okay.
You're either buying or selling, you're going to tell me why.
Gotcha.
Now, I asked this one because I remember the first time you were on the show, and I even mentioned this league, you kind of chuckled.
Okay.
The XFL.
Okay, yep. I'm going to sell this. Yeah, it's just, I'm
is
not
it
even.
because of how you feel about football, or is it because?
Yeah. I've just lost my interest in American football now that the Free Jacks exist, I think. Even though, they don't play the same schedule, I can't be bothered with it anymore. I'm even losing my passion for college football, man. Really? I think the whole transfer and NIL thing, like individually, sure, makes sense. If a kid wants to get a little something, a little, a cut of their jersey being sold, all for it, man. But all of the stuff combined, it makes it unlikable. So, just the sport of American football for me is just really, really low on the totem pole right now.
See, I just love watching football.
Sure,
I can watch any. Well, I'm not the USFL. I'm sorry. And again, I've missed a lot of the XFL because I'm more the Free Jacks are my team.
Yes.
Right. But like the USFL now coming after, I'm like, okay, guys, it's done. It's like, we have rugby, but people are on to baseball.
Yep.
You got the NBA playoffs. You got there is no room for this league.
Yep. It's a saturated market, man. That's one of the things that is difficult for rugby is there's so many sports out there that people can be watching. So, yeah.
Let me see. Bozo's predictions, buy or sell?
I would normally say sell, but he went 6-0. He might be doing a comeback here, Dan. Like, he might find himself in first place. And if that does happen, he will be dancing on everybody's grave. You know how he is. Yeah.
Man, we're never going to hear the end of it because,
No doubt.
I said to him, I go, what did I say? Dallas is winning this week. You heard it here first. And he said, I think Molly or
Bunny.
Bunny. I don't know Bunny, but she was talking to you, and I overheard.
Yes. So her real name's Katie. Very nice girl. Yeah.
So I overheard her say that, and her explanation for it made me actually. And I wasn't even in this conversation, but I was like, huh. And then I threw the game on when I got home.
Yep.
So I'm saying they're winning this weekend.
Okay. Love it.
And he goes, she said that, and I go, yeah. Where'd you think I got it from? I got the 199th pick of the Rugby Podcast Draft, Dan from Merrimack.
Buy. Easy buy. Buying 1,000 times. Yep.
I'll take it.
Hell yeah.
I can't wait to get on there. Toronto Management. Toronto Arrows Management.
Sell. Yeah, sell. You got to win games at home, man. Like, there's really no excuse to get blown out that bad. Other than, again, the Free Jacks had a great day. Sometimes the ball just bounces your way. But giving up 80 points at home is a rough look. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't improve and make it respectable with their final overall standings. Yeah, he'll be out the door.
Yeah, that's embarrassing.
It is.
This team that has to be the favorite right now, the San Diego Legion.
Buying. Yep. They will. I am. Well, Seattle's one of those teams. It's like they could.
They're in
easily
it a
win.
lot.
Yeah, they're in it every single year. It seems like they
Yeah.
are like. They're like the Manchester United of MLR right now. They've won 2 championships. They've been in 3 championships or maybe 4 at this point. It's pretty crazy their dominance, and it's like it's almost flying under the radar how good they are. Maybe it's because it's that West Coast, Pacific Northwest, or in the middle of nowhere in terms of like sports markets and stuff like that. But yeah, they're scary good, and Houston will be a problem as well. Utah could be a sneaky pick, although they did lose to DC last week, which kind of derailed that.
I was impressed with them when they played the Free Jacks.
Yeah.
I really was.
They're good.
That was a battle, though.
At home, they are very, very good because they have the altitude going in their favor.
I would go to a game there.
Stunning, right? Unbelievable views. It's got the mountains in the background. Probably one of the best stadiums in the world, perhaps, for that sort of thing. But yeah, that home atmosphere is really ruckus as well. We like to think that we're the best at Fort Quincy, but they're very good as well. So,
the band Orleans, when you got to see them at the Free Jacks.
I'm selling it, man. I mean, cool that they were there. It's not really my
Cup of tea.
Style of music. Yeah, I grew up as a metalhead.
Okay.
And from there, like old country music is also something I really am passionate about. And there's some new artists that kind of embody that style that I like. And I listen to a lot of electronic music, a lot. So that's kind of my 3 big ones, big 3.
Fair enough. See, my dad was a musician.
Okay.
I guess he still is a musician, and he has a band still.
Right.
And a lot of those songs I grew up on because of him.
Mm-hmm.
The English Beat, though, what did you think of that? No.
Not a fan, man. It's like that ska stuff. It's just not for me, man. Like
See, I love ska.
Do you?
Real Big Fish was a big band for me.
Wow, you and Mags. Mags would love you, man, because that's Mags' type of style of music, man, for sure. Mags is the CEO of the Free Jacks, USA Rugby legend, by the way. But yeah, it's just not for me. I'm really looking forward to Old Crow Medicine Show. Mm-hmm. It's like a folky, old bluegrass type of country music that will be the last event. So it should be a good time. I'm
loving it. Just want to say, Jerry Springer show. Jerry Springer passed away today.
Rest in peace. Yep. Buying or selling? Buying. Yeah, that was good back in the day, man.
Back in the 90s.
It was a good time.
And last one, Spider, the super fan. Spider on MLR as the picture.
Buying it. I mean, there's no better embodiment of the New England Free Jacks fan than Spider. He's got the look. He's got the tricorn hat. He's got the Revolutionary War Army get up as a shirt, and he wears Spider-Man tights, and he wears Daisy Duke cut-off blue jeans. And he sounds like a guy from Lynn. That's exactly where he's from. He sounds like, he smokes like 2 packs a day. He's a carpenter by trade, and he's just that Free Jack. I don't want to do the accent, but he's just, he's the best.
He's got it down.
The camera loves him. Yeah, for sure.
Got to have fans like that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely.
But, Phil, it's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure, Dan.
We'll
Thank you so
again.
much.
I think we got you and we're gonna have you and Bozo back towards the end of the season. Because we're gonna want to talk about the playoffs.
Absolutely.
At that point. But everybody out there, have a great week. We will have Ricky Atherton on the live stream tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. But until next time, let freedom ring.
Huzzah!
Perfect.